Organizations seem to be hiring less for graphic design, safety and resource protection, supplies and procurement, distribution, arts and photography, and investigations. In May, we're finding some of our top posting organizations focus on political and issue campaigns, victim services, children and family services, alleviating poverty, and education and literacy. With fewer listings on idealist.org, there are more views on each listing, about 221 on average. And of the 2,500 jobs in the US on Idealist, 341 are specifically marked as remote. Of the rest of those listings that are considered on-site, organizations aren't always mentioning if the work is temporarily remote, and when they do, it's often in the fine print of the listing, so read carefully. Before I go on to introduce our fabulous panelists, I wanted to answer a couple of questions that many of you asked during the registration for the event. So first up, ageism. Unfortunately, we expect ageism to continue to be an issue in the job seeking and hiring process, and because it's often a bit concealed, it's pretty tough to combat. One suggestion, however, is to consider what you can remove from your resume rather than what you may need to add to it. Oftentimes, ageism can be rooted in a misperception that older professionals may not be as tech savvy as their younger peers. So if you have a tech skills section on your resume, consider what you may have included that can actually make you sound less tech savvy. For example, there's really no longer much need to include different tools in Microsoft Office. So that's Word, PowerPoint, etc. And unless you're actually programming or doing complex data modeling in Excel, you can leave that out as well. And of course, if you are programming or doing complex data modeling in Excel, definitely be specific about that in your resume. It's impressive. Another topic that quite a few of you are curious about is what the options are considering the current situation for recent college grads with little to no professional experience on their resumes. I think there are a few things that are important to remember here. So while it's absolutely going to be tough out there, as a recent college grad, you will never be closer to the amazing resources and support that you could find through your school's career office. Take advantage of everything they have to offer. Some of the most valuable things you'll find are free resume guidance, interview prep, and of course, connection to an active network of professional alums. Something else our recent college grads may want to consider is Americorps service. There's an incredible variety of positions available, about 370 on Idealist right now. And a year of service is a great way to get some concrete professional experience on your resume while making an impact. Personally, my year of service with Americorps in Denver was a pretty critical step in my career path and also offered me an extra year after graduating from college to experiment professionally and continue to hone in on what I ultimately wanted to do with my career. All right. It is time to talk to some organizations who are doing their part to help in different ways, of course, and hear more about how the current situation is impacting their hiring needs and processes. I'm pleased to introduce our two panelists. First, we have Stephanie Chavez, pronouns she, her, hers. Stephanie is the Managing Director of the Midwest Recruitment and Admissions Team at City Year. She leads a team across the region, and together they're responsible for hiring over 750 City Year Americorps members for their 6 Midwest locations. Stephanie is originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, attended the University of Michigan on a full soccer scholarship, and served 2 years as an Americorps member with City Year and the American Red Cross of Greater Chicago. Next, we have Elyssa Feliciano, pronouns she, her, hers. Elyssa is the Talent Acquisition Manager at Ceres, Inc. Elyssa oversees organization-wide recruitment for both staff and interns, incorporating Ceres' commitment to inclusion and equity in their efforts. Prior to joining Ceres, Elyssa recruited for multiple organizations across several different industries, including management consulting, consumer tech, and technical consulting. In addition to her recruiting experience, she also has experience in event management, program management, and benefits administration. Elyssa graduated from Stonehill College with a degree in international studies and economics. Welcome to you both. We are so happy to have you here. I have a lot of questions for you. And hi, everyone. I have a lot of questions for you, and I know our attendees are super eager to hear what you each have to say. So I'll go ahead and share each question, and then either or both of you can just jump in with your thoughts. Sound good? Oh, Let's. All right, so a little technical difficulty. Elyssa, do we have you?
Yep, I'm here.
Great. Stephanie, do we have you?
Yes, I'm here.
Beautiful. Cool, so welcome again, now that we can all hear each other. Let's just jump in. So both of your organizations are hiring right now. What about the interviewing process and hiring process has been impacted by the current pandemic?
So I can go ahead and get us started. So in the past, if you lived in the city that you were applying to work in, we would really encourage you to have an in-person interview and come to our office. Now, obviously, since we are all working from home, all of our interviews have moved into a virtual space. And so our organization is utilizing Microsoft Teams and Zoom to host all of our interviews over video. Also, our onboarding, a lot of the aspects of our onboarding, once someone has been hired, has been moved to the virtual space as well. And we do have limited in-person requirements. And then in terms of our staff positions, some of our employees are actually starting their jobs from their home. So that's a little bit how City Year has been impacted in our hiring process.
Yeah, I would say for Ceres, thank you. I would say for Ceres, it's pretty similar. You know, for those candidates who are local to either our Boston or San Francisco office, or planning on working from either of those offices, we would often have them come in for an in-person interview. But given the current environment, we have moved everything to a virtual experience, from the interview process to the onboarding as well. We've successfully onboarded 5 new people into the organization in this entirely remote fashion. So far, it's been really great. I would say the biggest change to the overall process, aside from everything being remote, is that there's been a lot more flexibility and transparency that we've noticed throughout the process as well. So both on our end and then from the candidate's end as well. So just having folks be more transparent with where they are in their search, and us also asking for a little bit more flexibility and patience on our end around timing and how quickly we're able to move folks through a process.
Great. Speaking of applicants and moving people through the process, is there any one thing that you would like for all job seekers to know right now?
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. So with City Year, it's we're open for business. Sorry. Yeah, we're open for business. We're hiring. We are hiring over 3,000 City Year Americorps members to work in 29 cities across the U.S. Our students are going to need City Year Americorps members now more than ever. The learning loss that they've experienced through COVID, our students are affected the most by this, and there's a great need for us to catch our students up now more than ever. Also, this is a great opportunity for you to build skills both for your career and to invest in yourself and earn money towards your future education while you're participating in a year of service like City Year. So there's a lot of opportunities right now for people that want to do a year of service.
Yeah. One thing that I would say I want all job seekers to know is, in this current climate, is not to take anything personally. Of course, that's something that we tried to share throughout the, talent acquisition space. But if you aren't hearing from someone in a timely manner, or there's just the process isn't going as smoothly as you would like, try not to take it as a reflection of the organization, but really, or as a reflection of how the organization feels about you. I can tell you right now, as a virtually one-person talent acquisition team, that managing a search through a pandemic like this there's just a lot of patience that needs to be had on all ends. So try not to take anything personally and understand that this is a difficult time for everyone, including those of us who are continuing to work and continuing to hire. You know, we recognize that this is a scary time for a lot of people. And we're doing our best to be as transparent and flexible throughout our own processes.
And I'm sure for you both, patience and some empathy and sensitivity is probably even more important now than it had been before this whole situation. I guess on the flip side of that, is there anything you would say applicants should maybe avoid doing right now? Stephanie, do you want to start?
No.
Sure, yeah, I was giving you a chance to go, but I'll go ahead and get us started. So definitely, I want to double down on kind of what was already said. Make sure that you're being like flexible and transparent during this process. So, for example, with City Year, we have a lot of people that relocate for service, and right now there's probably hesitations about, you know, moving across the country and finding a place to rent and things like that. But I know companies are really investing in their people. So I guess don't close the door on opportunities is what I'm saying, and advocate for what resources and needs that you may have. Because I know a lot of companies are offering relocation, temporary housing if people have to self-quarantine, and just really being flexible to make sure that their employees are starting off on the right foot. The other thing I would say, really make sure that you're bringing your best professional self to the virtual space, since a lot of things that we're doing virtually now used to happen in person. Like, continue to use those rules in this new space. And then I would say just like the last thing is just have an open mind and be flexible. Things are changing on a daily basis in terms of how we're able to operate. And there's going to be a lot of times where we don't have a concrete answer for you, but we'll get you the information as soon as we have it. So I think those are probably my best tips.
That's great. Elyssa, how about you?
Yeah, I would echo everything that Stephanie said. I think something that applicants should 100% avoid, if possible, is just unnecessary back and forth. You know, the more transparent you can be throughout the process of where you are in your own search with the talent acquisition team, the better we are prepared to really advocate on your behalf and move hiring managers, move the process forward to the best of our ability. So really encouraging applicants and candidates to be as open and honest with their current search and where they are at in their career journey as possible.
Great. The perfect segue to the next question, speaking of career journeys, we have a lot of attendees who are currently weighing their options and considering pretty major career changes, so maybe a sector switch or a change in field. What would you suggest to somebody looking to make the switch into the nonprofit sector right now? Elyssa, we can start with you on this one.
Yeah, sure. I would say networking is obviously key, and almost goes without saying that now is the time to really explore your network and start reaching out to folks, again, with patience and flexibility in mind, understanding that not everyone may be in a position to, you know, to offer as much time as you would like, but definitely reach out to your network. And I would say also really educate yourself. Take this opportunity to start exploring the new sector or the new field that you're interested in, and start finding perhaps webinars. A lot of these virtual panels are happening now, so rather than having to go to places on site, start getting creative with more of these virtual sessions and how you can participate, just to make yourself more aware of what's going on within that industry and in that space.
And I would definitely agree. And this is a great time, I think, for people to look into the nonprofit space. As I mentioned a little bit earlier before, the student loss, learning loss that's taken place during COVID-19 is great, and our students are continuing to dream big, and they need people like you who want to invest in them and help them get back on track. So I think this is a fantastic time to switch to a nonprofit because the needs are great. And then just to echo what Elyssa said, I would say, if possible, ask for informational interviews with people in your network, participate in panels or networking events if they're offered to you. And then just since City Year is an Americorps organization, if the dream nonprofit that you want to work for has an Americorps member position, I would say apply for that one, go for it. That's a year-long interview that you have with that company where you can get your foot in the door with them. So that way when a full-time staff position becomes available, you already have a connection at that organization.
That's great. It's great to hear that you both think that this is still a good time to move into the nonprofit space. And after this event, we're definitely going to share resources with our attendees about sector switching, about self-driven professional development. So we'll have a lot to follow up on there, but it's good to hear. Is your organization, Elyssa, this question is probably more for you. Is your organization considering prospective employees who may want to work from home at least some of the time for roles that used to be strictly on site?
Yeah, I think we'll likely have some flexibility on this matter arise out of this pandemic. For now, we're still in the early stages of figuring out what the future of work at Ceres looks like. A lot of the roles that we had were, required to be on site. We did have some flexibility because the nature of some of our positions do require subject matter expertise, and you're not always going to be able to find that person in Boston or San Francisco. So there was always some flexibility there, but I think coming out of this, there will likely be more flexibility in that space. So right now we're in the process of figuring out what that would look like. But I would expect to see the future of work and the remote ability really shift after this pandemic.
Stephanie, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I can just say that for City Year, for our 3,000 Americorps members and then our staff members that work out of our 29 offices, we're really following the lead of our local, state, cities, and school districts. Mm-hmm. So next fall, if the proper procedures and cautions are put in place for us to return to school, we will do that and welcome that and make sure that we're taking care of our people and employees and making sure that they feel safe and confident to return to the workplace in whatever way that we ask them to.
Great. Great. The next question we have is a little more personal from each of your experiences. What is one of the main struggles that you all as a hiring manager have been facing right now? And is there anything that job applicants can do to make your job easier?
Yeah, I can
Stephanie,
start off with this one.
Go for it, Elyssa.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I was just going to say time. Time has really been a factor for both myself and our hiring managers across the board. Talent acquisition in general can be a chicken or the egg situation for companies and for teams. Just, the matter of we have an open role, we're all really busy and we need help, from this person, but finding the time to actually move through a search and find this person can be difficult as well. So I think for job applicants, again, this is where the patience piece kind of comes in and just being flexible, understanding that, if you're not hearing back from us in as timely manner as you would hope, it's because of time, really. It's just, we've been very busy here at Ceres, working towards our greater mission. There's a greater sense of urgency with everything that we do, and so I would say that finding the time and really making the time has proven a bit difficult, but yeah, I think that's the patience piece, having applicants and candidates that understand that makes the process so much easier.
So I would just say a little bit more on what I mentioned previously is that the situation is fluid. There's a ton of unknowns. And so for our team, we recruit and hire people to work with us. And so our job, it's super important to give people the details, right? To tell them the when, the where, the how, the what, and exactly how everything is going to run for them. So that way they feel like prepared and confident on their first day of service. And because of the situation that's evolving daily, there's a lot of things that we can't say for sure. But what I can tell our candidates is that we're planning for every scenario and that we will be, prepared for them on day one when they show up. And so I know that's hard for both us and for the employee to have that mutual trust and understanding that we're planning for every scenario, no matter what it was. Like, we will put their best interest first and make sure that they're set up for success, no matter what the environment is that they'll be working in. And then the other thing that I just mentioned before is right now we have over 3,000 people that are going to be working for us next year, right? And we're counting on them, and so are our students. So now is the time for us to work through any hesitations that you might have about starting with us on time, because we're here to help you and support you and make sure that this is a good fit for you. So I think giving your employer as much time to help you navigate any challenges that you're anticipating is helpful for both parties.
That's great. I think those are some incredibly useful insights for everybody who's tuning in. Switching gears a little bit, we definitely got a few questions about salary, negotiation, benefits, stuff like that. How has the pandemic impacted compensation, either salary or benefits? And is your organization open to salary negotiation right now? Elyssa, do you want to go for it?
Yeah, sure. So, as a nonprofit, our budgets are typically finalized at least a year in advance. Given that we're primarily grant funded organization. And so our compensation structure is explicitly outlined, and we're very transparent about what our compensation is at Ceres from the very beginning of the job search process. So I would say that in light of everything going on, not much has changed on our end. If anything, we've just, as an organization, we've just been a little bit more diligent and, thoughtful about the opportunities that we're posting and that we're hiring, and asking hiring managers or teams to really evaluate what's an absolute need and what's, might be a nice to have, and kind of moving forward from there. But from a truly salary or benefit perspective, there hasn't been much change in that regard.
Stephanie, anything from you?
Yeah, so I can just add the perspective from the Americorps member position, because I'm not sure if everybody who's on the call is aware of all of the benefits that Americorps members do receive.
That'd be
so so when you do serve with Americorps, you get a over $6,000 education award that you can use to pay off federal student loans or to contribute to your future educational costs. And you can serve with Americorps for 2 years. So that's like over $12,000 that you have right there. In addition, we provide our members with a monthly living stipend that covers the rent and expenses. They get free health coverage and federal student loan forbearance. And then in addition, city or in our markets where we have like large public transportation systems, there's usually a partnership where you can get that covered as well. And then again, with city year, we have partnerships with over 100 colleges and universities where they will provide you with an additional scholarship on top of the one that you receive through Americorps, where you can get 25 to 100% of your education paid for. So I think one of the main things that I just want to reiterate here is that while our Americorps members served with us this year and what their service looked like day to day, we were able to ensure that they still received all of those benefits. And so We secured all those for next year as well. And so that is something that our Americorps members don't have to worry about when they start with us on their first day, that they will continue to receive those benefits no matter what their service looks like next year.
That's awesome. And I'm sure that it's definitely news to quite a few people on the call what all is included in that list of benefits. So thank you for sharing that. What kind of candidates are you both seeing? Is it more or fewer applicants sector switching from the private sector? What are you noticing in applicants? Stephanie, do you want to start with this one?
Yes. So at the beginning of March, when the pandemic really hit, and students were being told, hey, you may have to move home and move out of your dorm. Your college classes are now moving online and you're going to have a virtual graduation. We did see a dip in applications as people were kind of adjusting to this new reality. After a few weeks, our applications have picked up quite a bit. So we have seen a spike in applications actually to City Year now. In terms of candidates that we're seeing with City Year, in order to serve with us and be close to the age of the students that you're serving with, all of our members are between the ages of 18 and 25. And what we're seeing is an increased interest in the gap year. So whether that's a high school student who's decided that college might not be the right next step for them at this time, or someone who is in the middle of their college career who's had to move home and wants to take some time off, or someone who's recently graduated and they want to do a year of service before like graduate school or starting their career. We've definitely seen an increase in this type of applicant for sure.
Yeah, I'd say for us, we've seen, I haven't noticed much of a dip. There's definitely been an uptick in applications, and that is, that was to be expected because a lot of the positions that we have most recently posted in the last 2 months have been primarily entry level or 2 years of experience, 1 to 2 years of experience. So with all of the students now graduating, we've of course seen an uptick there. But other than that, I'd say the volume of applicants has been pretty steady throughout. And as far as anyone switching from the private sector, that tends to make up a decent chunk of our applicants in general, just because the nature of the work that we do, bringing sustainability to the forefront for corporate action. So I would say, not much of a change has happened on our end.
Got it. That was great. It was super helpful to hear answers from each of you, and I think that your perspectives and insights are definitely going to be really valuable to our attendees. Now we're going to switch it up a little bit. We're going to turn to questions submitted by you all in the audience via chat, and we will now be joined by my colleague Emily, who will be asking the questions on your behalf. Emily, are you there?
I sure am. Hi, everybody. I'm an Idealist logo. Nice. Well, Stephanie and Elyssa, thank you so much. Well, I'll say this: we have an active chat section we're very excited about. So I'm going to try to do my best to sort of wrap it up. And I would say maybe in a very general way, we're seeing a lot of questions around ageism in a few different ways, I'll say. And so maybe I'll try to kind of see if I can parse it a little bit. So for example, one question was, what about ageism against young people, which is pretty open-ended, but I guess that maybe to kind of put a little more on that for the person asking that question. Apologies if I'm not getting it right, but I think maybe they're just sort of saying, I guess maybe how can they kind of maybe it's something about how they can present their materials in a way that sort of is trying to put their skills to the forefront and maybe downplay age.
That's a great question. I can jump in here. I'd say for us, really highlighting your skill set, setting up your resume to reflect the job description as you see it and the skills that you're looking for in the job description, and really drawing to that. I'd also say that utilizing the cover letter as an opportunity to really share your experience and really dive into how you think, you know, the experience that you've had at an internship, for example, really could correlate to the work that is necessary for the role that you're applying for. You know, I know for Ceres, the cover letter is a really important piece of the application, and we do actually read the cover letters that all of the cover letters that come through, and it serves as both an opportunity for us to see what your writing skills are like, but also for us to learn more about your career journey, and for you to, again, take the opportunity to really highlight why you're interested in Ceres or why you're interested in the organization, and really tie together perhaps any of the loose ends that of your resume and your skill set as it relates to the job.
So at City Year, our organization is founded on the beliefs of young people and their idealism and ability to take action. So we, like I mentioned before, all of our Americorps members are between the ages of 18 and 25. So just to echo, the resume and cover letter are super important. So if there is an opportunity, I know at the beginning of this call, it was mentioned that there might be some of those workshops offered to you in the future. I would say definitely take advantage of those, because some of your previous experience, whether it's volunteering, participating in extracurriculars, maybe you are in a club at school, or you volunteer on the weekends, or you've worked in an after-school space. Really being able to translate those experiences onto your resume is really important, and making sure that you tailor that to the job that you're applying to. So in my own experience, a lot of young people don't necessarily value their experiences and understand how that can translate into a job. And so have confidence in the things that you participated in and that you've worked on, and take advantage, like I said, of opportunities to learn how to translate that into the professional world. But just because you're young, that doesn't mean that you're not qualified and that you don't have a lot to bring to the table.
That's great, thank you. So I'm gonna try to see if I can get through some very specific questions. So one for Elyssa: can job candidates proactively contact Ceres?
Yeah, we actually do have, you know, our staff are very active on Twitter and LinkedIn. And so if you feel inclined to reach out to an individual through one of those means, you know, the likelihood of them responding back is certainly there. You know, our organization, we're very open to sharing the work that Ceres does. And so reaching out directly to staff, leveraging any sort of connection you might have, or a cold outreach might be, you know, it's that could go two ways, but leveraging any sort of connection you might have. We have a lot of members that are active in that impact and in different sustainability, you know, organizations and networking groups. So leveraging those connections, I think, would be your best bet. But folks are certainly open to engaging with people that are reaching out directly about opportunities at Ceres.
That's great. I will say there have been a few questions from folks, you know, really interested in City Year, I think, but may not be sort of in the age bracket. And so, Stephanie, not to make you speak for every Americorps related organization, but do you have any? Are there any organizations that you've come across in your years? Anyone who's working with folks, taking core members who are over 25? Yeah.
So with Americorps, there's hundreds of different programs, each that have a different focus. So there's NCCC, which is focused around like sustainability and disaster relief. There's Teach for America, right? That's one where there isn't an age limit, where you're a teacher in a classroom. So there are a ton of different opportunities. I mentioned that I served with the American Red Cross of Greater Chicago. They have a disaster relief program and then a community engagement program as well. So my advice would be for people to look on the website americorps.gov, and you can search by program type, you can search by location, and there are hundreds of different wonderful programs that people can participate in. City year, we just have that specific age range because our mission is founded on near peers. And so all of our members are close in age to the students that they're tutoring and mentoring. But we do have staff positions as well. So as I mentioned, we work in 29 US cities, and we have positions in development and fundraising, impact and evaluation, recruitment and admissions, people and operations. So there are opportunities for people to join our staff as well who are above the 25-year-old age range.
And can I just add one thing too? There's also an organization for those who are perhaps 10 years or more in their career. There's Fuse Corps, which is an organization that I worked with for a bit. And they're a national nonprofit that partners with local government agencies to help urban communities thrive. And so they're seeking help in, a number of issues in cities and counties across the country in areas such as economic and workforce development, healthcare, public safety, climate change, education, a little bit of everything. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of opportunities out there for folks, well into their career.
Thank you both. Those are great resources. Okay, again, trying to group some of our great questions. Folks are writing in about being overqualified, about being underqualified, and not sure sort of what to do with that. Should they be applying? Should they not be applying? So I guess kind of curious for your thoughts when you're seeing that resume maybe that has more experience or less experience, but perhaps has something to add. What comes across your mind?
Yeah, I would say for in either direction, utilizing our own, applicant tracking system, our software, we definitely make notes of candidates who are either underqualified or overqualified for a position. And we include them in any sort of talent pools that we have for, for roles at their level. If you're unsure about where you are at in the process or how you qualify for an opportunity, I think that would be an appropriate time to perhaps seek out a way that you could engage with someone from the organization and just get a better sense of, okay, this is, I read the job description, I feel like I'm hitting this, but maybe I'm not. Where am I lacking? And getting a little bit more insight is certainly valuable. And, for those who reach out to me directly through LinkedIn, when I have the time and I'm able to, I'm more than happy to connect with folks in that regard. And just having someone in the organization that you can chat with, or even if it's someone that used to be a part of the organization that you're interested in, just finding a way to get that connection and to get that insight if you can't get it through, the actual job interview, the interview process. I think that shows a commitment to working for that organization and a commitment to their mission and the work that they do. So, don't be afraid to reach out and try to find a way to learn more information about how you might align to the roles at the company.
Yeah, so my response is very similar. If you do start an application with us for an Americorps member position, you will immediately get contacted by a recruiter, and they will offer to set up 30 minutes with you to talk about the organization, what your year of service would look like, and if you're a good fit. They also, if you feel like you might be underqualified, they can help coach you and talk through that and help you figure out ways that you can enhance your application or other experiences that you might be able to highlight. And then if you don't receive a position with City Year, you can always apply again for the following year. So during that time, we really encourage our candidates to go out and get some additional experience that would help make them more qualified the next time that they apply. So definitely take advantage of your resources, speak to a recruiter if that option is available to you. And then if it's deemed that you are underqualified and this is something that you're really committed and excited about, go ahead and get that additional volunteer experience. So that way the next time you apply, you'll be a stronger candidate.
Great. I'll just jump in, changing gears a little bit. Elyssa, you mentioned an organization and everybody asked what the name was. It was Youth Corps?
No, it was Fuse.
Fuse. So, okay, great. There was a lot of people guessing, actually correctly, and I said wrong. We'll send out that information in the follow-up email, so we'll get that to everybody. Okay, so another, again, more switching topics. So people are asking if your organizations use ATSs and if you do any screening with them. So if you're kind of screening for keywords and things like that. And then there was also a question about any tech skills that you think are really valuable in applicants right now.
Yeah, I would say for the tech skills, for us, just, data analysis, data analytics is really important across the board, in both at Ceres and just in general. I think a lot of organizations are thinking about how they're analyzing information and how they're using that, to influence and navigate their work going forward. So data analysis, any sort of, whether that's data visualization, analytical tools, coming up to speed with that is definitely important. And then I'm sorry, I'm totally blanking on the first part of that question.
About ATSs, and if you use an ATS and you kind of use the screening tools available in the ATS.
Yeah, definitely. I briefly mentioned that before. We very much use an applicant tracking system at Ceres, and I wouldn't say we don't really use it to screen resumes out. There's a couple of very qualifying, like, are you 18 years or older, questions that we ask that are more about your eligibility to just work in general. But the highlighting, again, going back to resumes and the importance of resumes, for someone that is really active in their search, it is not uncommon to have multiple versions of your resume, especially if you're applying to a variety of different jobs in different industries. So for example, if you've been in sales your entire life and you've been trying to switch into more of a marketing role, but you're also considering, account management opportunities, your resumes for a marketing position are going to be very, very different than your position for a account management or for something continuing in sales. So just thinking about how you're, making your resume accurately reflect the job description, utilizing keywords from the job description in your resume to talk about your experience and how it can relate. I would say that that's a really helpful way to make sure that, the recruiters and hiring managers, when they're reading your resume, can quickly see how you are, how you're qualified for the job.
So it's Citier in terms of tech skills. So our Americorps members, once schools were closed, had to transition into a remote learning space. So definitely being able to communicate with students over Google Classroom, and each school district looks different. So I just want to acknowledge that. But I think making that transition from like the in-person, in-classroom, tutoring, mentoring every single day, and having to do that remotely, that was a shift for us and for our Americorps members to have to work more like and be more tech savvy and have tech skills. In terms of our impact with our students, data analysis is super important. We want to make sure that our students are progressing and moving in the right direction and getting back on track. And so our Americorps members are looking at data constantly and evaluating if what they're doing is effective, and then if there's any enhancements or adjustments that they need to make with their individual students to meet their needs. During the hiring process, we do use an applicant tracking system. Tomorrow actually is our final application deadline, which is May 29th. And typically when all of our sites have positions available, we will invite everyone to an initial interview. Now, as we get closer to our start date, some of our sites are building wait lists. And so you might not get an interview initially with us, or you might be asked to consider a different location that might need more Americorps members for next year. But in terms of our eligibility requirements, there are certain baseline things that everyone must have in order to move on in the process that our application does screen for. And that is you have to be 18 years old, you have to have your GED or high school diploma. Because we are funded through Americorps, you do have to be a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident to participate in city year. And then you can't have served more than 4 terms already with Americorps. So that's kind of our baseline requirement for you to get an interview.
Emily, can I jump in here?
Please.
So just speaking of applicant tracking systems and keywords and everything like that, just made me think of kind of another important thing. Aside from just using keywords, I would also recommend that applicants do a little bit of language mirroring. So simple things like go to the hiring organization's website and see if they spell nonprofit all one word or with a hyphen, and write it that way too in your cover letter and your resume. Do they refer to themselves as an organization or a company? You know, I think it's important to find little opportunities to mirror that language just so that you're speaking the same language as the hiring organization, because I don't think it's necessarily going to turn anybody off right away if you use a different spelling, but I think it just turns on a little light bulb if you do use the right spelling of something. Another thing that I would put on that list is making sure that you're just capitalizing things correctly, because when you do a quick Google search of an organization, what you see in the Google search result as far as how the organization's name is spelled, is it all one word, is it 2 words, is it capital, is it lowercase, it might not be exactly how they brand-wise like to have their organization name spelled. So just keep an eye out for things like that to mirror, in addition to using those keywords that you want to use for an ATS.
Yeah, that's a great point, Alexis. That's something that we definitely pay a lot of attention to when organizations or when candidates refer to us as a company. It can be a little bit of a red flag for us, depending on where in the process they are, and understanding just exactly what it is that we do and who we are.
Sure.
Okay, great. We have a little bit more time, so I'm going to try to throw some more in here. So, couple questions on how long you're seeing hiring processes take. Obviously, sort of, you know, a little different for city year, but maybe Stephanie, there's something there for you to speak to. So I think folks are curious, sort of, you know, is it a longer process? What's kind of going on there? And then the other piece sort of related to that, some folks are wondering about follow-up. You know, what's the best way to do it, or what's the best way to make a connection? Yeah, curious for your thoughts there.
Yeah, I can jump in.
So
yeah, please.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry.
So for the process length, I'd say the length of our process has certainly increased by a bit. Again, just from a timing perspective, it depends on, it honestly depends on the team and where they are at, and as far as the work that they're doing. But I would say that the length of our talent acquisition process has historically been a little bit on the longer side. And with this, it's probably stayed about the same, if not a little bit more. And then yeah, and I think as far as the follow-up piece goes, you know, definitely encouraging folks to follow up with us as far as it relates to the timeline. You know, sending out a quick reminder, hey, just checking in, does not hurt. It doesn't, if it's every day, that could be an issue, but you know, if it's in a timeline that makes sense, and just acknowledging the situation that we're all in, I certainly think that is a fine thing to do.
So for city year, as I mentioned, our last formal application deadline is May 29th. If you submit by that deadline, you can expect to be invited to an interview between June 1st and the 12th. And then we will have a decision for you by June 19th, if you're accepted or not. And then because we are getting so close to our start date, you would have until June 26th, which is a week, to let us know if you're going to accept our offer or not. And then our city year sites, they're starting the 3rd or 4th Monday in June at the earliest. And then some of our sites have a final start date into the end of August, just depending on the location in the local school district.
Okay, great. So as we're closing up here, trying to get a couple more questions in. So a question that came through, wondering what gives one applicant an edge over another?
That's a good question. I think it really, for me, it's all, especially now that I'm at Ceres, the more you know about an organization, the more you can speak to what they do and how it aligns with your own goals and your own passion, really sets folks apart for me. You know, again, the nature of what we do here at Ceres, it's very involved. There is a great sense of urgency. So having someone that is so committed to the mission really stands out in my mind. You know, and I'm sure that can be echoed across the nonprofit sector, but really for me in this space, it's finding someone that has done their research, knows what they're talking about, is excited about the opportunity. You know, talking to someone that's excited to talk to me is you know, definitely leaves a lasting impression in my mind.
Yeah, so just to echo that, excitement is extremely important. And then another key word is commitment. So this isn't just another job where you're going to punch a clock and come in and out of here, right? We're looking for someone who has a passion for social justice, who loves working with youth and with students, and is passionate about service as well. So being able to convey that and express that both in your application and during your interview is really important. And then the city year commitment is 11 months, and we're looking for someone that's going to stay with us that entire time, because it's so important to our students. And so during the beginning of our process, we're looking for people who are going to show us that they're going to stay committed and that this is more than just a job to them.
Wonderful. Thank you all. I think before we close up shop, and I'll just say here, I have 57 unread, or not unread, I've read them all, but 58 open questions. And so I'm so sorry. I think for anyone we didn't get to, when we do the follow-up email, we will try to answer as much as we can. I think we may even ask Elyssa and Stephanie to answer some questions via email, so we can get you all some more answers, but we'll do our best there. But I think before we shut down, just curious, Stephanie, Elyssa, I don't know, any closing thoughts? Anything that you want to share with folks?
I would just say thanks for joining. Just being in this session today shows that you're, excited about this work, and there are opportunities. I know that this is a challenging time for everyone, but companies are still hiring, and the nonprofit sector needs people like you now more than ever. And so just thank you for taking time today to participate in this.
Yeah, I would definitely echo that. And I would say patience, really just understanding that this is a difficult time for literally everyone, in some sense of the word, and so having that patience with yourself, and your own experience, and also with the organizations that you are seeking to be a member of. I couldn't underline or underscore that enough, both patience and persistence, and a healthy balance of the two.
Great. So I'm going to jump back in. Stephanie and Elyssa, thank you so much for joining us today. You two made such a great team, and it was awesome to have you on the panel. Thank you to all of our attendees for tuning in. A little wrap-up housekeeping. We'll be sharing a follow-up email, as we keep mentioning, with lots of links and resources. And we'll also be sharing out some highlight video of this conversation and perhaps a full version, so just keep an eye out for that. Next week, our Executive Director, Ami Dar, will be in conversation with Leslie Gordon, President and CEO of Food Bank for New York City, Imani Scott Blackwell of the Athens Mutual Aid Network, and Laura Plato, Chief Solutions Officer for Volunteer Match. They'll discuss how we can help each other as this pandemic continues, and we'll be sure to share an RSVP link with you in the follow-up email to this event for that one. We hope you're well. We hope you stay that way. Have a wonderful day, and thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.